This is why it's so important that you get into the correct Uber. On March 29th, 2019, 21-year-old Samantha Josephson entered an Uber that she thought was hers, and she was never seen again. On this day, Samantha met with some friends at the Bird Dog Bar and left to go home at around 2 a.m. She ended up waiting alone in front of the bar for her Uber ride. And at 2:09, she's seen on surveillance entering this black Chevy Impala. Samantha's boyfriend, who lived in another state, was tracking her ride and noticed that the driver was going the opposite direction from her house. He tried to call her, but after getting no response, he fell asleep, and the next morning, Samantha's friends called him and asked him if he knew where she was because she never made it to work. They reported Samantha missing and asked to see surveillance footage from the bar and noticed that Samantha entered the car of 24-year-old Nathaniel Rowland. That night, Nathaniel locked his doors after Samantha entered his car, and he took her to a secluded area and stabbed her more than 100 times. He then went to an ATM and tried to withdraw money from her card twice. The next day, Nathaniel's car was spotted by a police officer. He was arrested and was eventually sentenced to life in prison.
I haven't seen anyone talking about this podcast, but it's about one of the wildest ghost stories I've ever heard. It starts with the host talking about how when he was growing up in England, he always felt like his room was haunted. But then years later, he moves out and he finds out that new people have moved into the house and they also think it's haunted. In total, 3 families had moved into this house that all thought this one room was haunted, and some of them were so traumatized that they weren't able to talk about it. And that's because some of them thought they saw the ghost and it was a woman with no face. And that's where this podcast gets wild. Because the host finds out that in the 1930s, next door to this house, a woman was murdered by being shot in the eyes. There's this whole story about how her brother came back from war and was losing his eyesight and was jealous of her, so in the middle of the night one night, he shot her in her eyes. But after this happened, a bunch of people started writing into the police saying they didn't think it was the brother. They thought it was the husband who was staging it to make it look like it was the brother. So then the podcast becomes this murder mystery to try and figure out who killed the woman in that horrible way. But also it's a ghost story because it's like, was that who's haunting that house in hopes that someone will eventually try to solve her murder? I cannot recommend it enough. You need to listen to it and tell me what you think.
The Simpsons predicted a dark winter of 2023 to 2024. That's what all the AI channels are saying anyway, but I don't believe this is a prediction. I believe it's more likely a plan. The problem is, I can't for the life of me find what episode this is because I can guarantee you it is not in season 33. But apparently, in the episode plot, the Simpson family gets snowed in at their home due to a massive winter storm. It's reported on the news that the storm isn't only in their town, but the entire United States. Most of the shelves in the grocery stores are empty and people need to stay home where they are sheltered. Okay, now this may be completely unrelated, but remember like 2 years ago when the COVID-19 pandemic started and Joe Biden said this.
We're about to go into a dark winter. We remain in a very dark winter. Infection rates are up 34%.
Dark winter actually has a very significant meaning in the government. Operation Dark Winter is actually a term used by the government and was a code name for a senior-level bioterrorist attack simulation. It was conducted on June 22nd to 23rd, 2001. It was designed to carry out a mock version of a covert and widespread smallpox attack in the United States. Now pause and read this. Now, if this episode is real, maybe it has to do with another lockdown situation like COVID-19. And we all know that The Simpsons have accurately predicted future events, like Donald Trump becoming president. But I think they're all just planned events. If anyone can find this episode, please let me know in the comments, and let me know your thoughts.
Of course I can spoil House for you. This is one of the trippiest, most bizarre horror movies ever made. If you want to feel like you're tripping balls, watch this movie. House full spoilers, here we go. The movie starts off with a young girl named Gorgeous who lives in Tokyo. Her widowed father announces that he's found a new woman and Gorgeous doesn't like that. She writes a letter to her aunt that she hasn't seen in a while and her aunt tells her that she can come visit for the summer. Gorgeous invites 6 of her friends, the first one being Prof, who is highly academic, Melody, who's a musical genius, Kung Fu, who can kick some ass, Mac, who has a really big appetite, Sweet, who is sweet, and Fantasy, who is a daydreamer. The friends arrive at the aunt's house. The aunt is giving rich aunt vibes and she has a cat and is in a wheelchair. We learn that when the aunt was younger, she had been waiting for her fiance to return from World War II before she learned that he passed away, but still waits for him to this day. The girls bring her a watermelon and try to put it in her fridge. She does not want them going in her fridge and tells them to take it outside in the well to use it as a natural refrigerator. But when Mac tries to retrieve the watermelon later, she disappears and does not return. Fantasy goes to retrieve the watermelon from the well, and then when she gets it out, she realizes realizes she's holding Mac's noggin and it starts floating in the air and bites Fantasy in the bum. Fantasy goes to tell the other girls what happened, but they think she's crazy. But then they all start encountering supernatural traps throughout the house. The aunt begins eating the watermelon and you can see an eye in her mouth. And the watermelon starts tweaking out and screaming as if Mac's inside of it. And Auntie starts walking around and tells the girl she has more energy now. The aunt disappears after entering the broken refrigerator and the girls all start getting attacked throughout the house. Gorgeous becomes possessed while using her aunt's mirror, and Sweet disappears after being attacked by a mattress. Gorgeous finally escapes the house through a door, but the other girls get locked in. Melody begins playing the piano, but the piano literally eats her, and her fingers are seen flying around. Gorgeous is found upstairs wearing a bridal gown and reveals her aunt's diary to them. Sweet's body is found trapped in a grandfather clock as red liquid pours out of it. As Fantasy and Kung Fu are about to read the aunt's diary, a giant-sized noggin of Gorgeous pops out of nowhere and reveals that her aunt actually passed away many years ago while waiting for her fiance to return from World War II. However, the aunt's spirit remains, which allows her to take physical form and enjoys fine dining on unmarried girls who arrive at her home. Prof yells at Kung Fu to attack the aunt's evil cat, but when Kung Fu tries to, she gets possessed by a light fixture. Kung Fu accidentally kicks a painting of the cat on the wall, which leads to the cat actually becoming unalived. The portrait of the cat aggressively starts shooting out red liquid and floods the room. The girl named Prof dissolves into the liquid, and then Fantasy sees Gorgeous in a bridal gown and paddles towards her. Gorgeous then appears as her aunt, but as she grabs Fantasy's hand, she turns into herself and cradles her. In the morning, Gorgeous's dad's new wife comes to the house to check on her. The wife asks Gorgeous where her friends are, and Gorgeous tells her that her friends will wake up soon when they're hungry. They then shake hands, and the wife ignites and turns into nothing. The end.
This girl would escape her attacker after 8.5 years. Natasha Kampusch, and I might have said that wrong, I probably said that wrong, correct me down in the comments, but she was born on February 17th of 1988. Natasha was born in Vienna, Austria, and she did not have an excellent home life. Her parents were both alcoholics who would later divorce and leave her pretty much alone. Her neighborhood also wasn't great. Natasha had big dreams of living in a different place and doing something with her life as she grew older. On March 2nd of 1988, it was supposed to be a big day for her because Natasha was walking herself to school. In a 5-minute walk, her captor, Wolfgang, I cannot pronounce his last name, but Wolfgang kidnapped her. He lured her into a white van and then took off with her. But Natasha was a survivor. She remembered watching a police TV show, and they had said something along the lines of needing to get personal information about your kidnapper. Natasha immediately started asking him questions like, "What is your shoe size?" thinking that eventually this would help police capture her attacker. Wolfgang took Natasha to the suburbs of Vienna and took her to his home. What she didn't know is that he had built a kind of cell under his basement. It was incredibly reinforced, and there was no way Natasha would ever make her escape. The search for Natasha was pretty fast. People started looking for her immediately. Wolfgang was even a suspect because people had witnessed him taking her, but police ruled him out very quickly. Wolfgang put Natasha in his cell, and Natasha was determined to make things as normal as possible. She would ask Wolfgang to tuck her in at night and give her kisses to go to bed. She even remembers him telling her bedtime stories at night. I mean, she was really a survivor. And in order to survive, she started imagining things like when he would give her baths, she imagined herself being at the spa. And when he gave her food, she imagined him being a gentleman that was serving her. But the thing was, Wolfgang would make her call her things like Lord or My Lord. But Wolfgang was not nice. He would often force Natasha to clean his house half naked and would beat her if she rebelled against him in any way. Natasha didn't really speak openly about the essay, but it is implied that Wolfgang also essayed her multiple times. But Natasha pressed on. She even talked about how she had a vision of meeting her 18-year-old self, and her 18-year-old self telling her that she was going to get out of the situation. Wolfgang would get more and more comfortable and often bring her out into public. I'll get into more of it in part 2. Give me a couple of minutes to film it and get it up. It'll be down in the comments.
Do you know why Roman soldiers wore what seemed like skirts? It was all about practicality and mobility. These skirts, known as tarugis, were actually strips of leather or fabric attached to a waistband. offering great flexibility in combat. Unlike trousers, Tarugis didn't restrict the legs, allowing soldiers to run, march, and engage in hand-to-hand battle more freely. Furthermore, these skirts provided some protection. The thick leather could deflect glancing blows and limit potential damage.
Actor Matthew Perry died today. Best known for being on the TV show Friends, Matthew Perry was 54 years old.
Actor Matthew Perry has died. The beloved Friends star was reportedly discovered dead in the jacuzzi of his LA area home this afternoon. Law enforcement sources told TMZ that first responders rushed to the address with the call first reported as a cardiac arrest. They went on to add that there were no drugs found at the scene and no foul play is suspected.
Now, while I never liked that crappy TV show Friends, I never had anything against Matthew Perry. He was probably the least annoying on that whole damn show. This god-awful TV show Friends was real popular in the 90s, and I have no idea why. It's about 5 of the most selfish people in New York City history. But like I said, I got nothing against Matthew Perry. I'm sorry he passed away. Once again, Matthew Perry died today. He was 54 years old. Bye for now, Booshkies. Bye for now.
Would you pay a monthly fee just to use Twitter? So recently, Elon Musk said that in order to stop bots from posting on Twitter, his plan is to include a small monthly subscription fee to use the app. He says that this is the only way to stop these bot accounts from being created. But let's not forget that Elon has made multiple changes to Twitter since taking over last October. One of the biggest changes is when he rebranded from the Twitter bird logo to now being just an X. I'm still gonna call it Twitter though. He fired thousands of his employees, and he also introduced a paid premium option where the members have to pay $8 a month. Now, I haven't used Twitter in years, so personally, I would not pay for this subscription, but I know some people still use it. So do you guys think that this subscription is worth it, or are you just gonna delete Twitter altogether? I remember seeing this photo of a restaurant employee cutting raw meat on the concrete floor outside, and I thought, what the heck is going on? This happened in Gwinnett County in Georgia, and the name of the restaurant is New China. This employee is seen casually cutting raw meat behind the restaurant outside. When this photo was taken, it was reported to the health department, but the restaurant argues that this employee was off the clock and he was cutting his own meat that he was gonna take home. Which, if that's the case, like, why would someone even do that? There's not even a cutting board. The restaurant also clarified that all their employees cook in the kitchen and that customers have nothing to worry about. This employee was later fired, and after investigating, they realized that none of this food was actually served to customers. The health department did not shut down this restaurant because there was no apparent threat to public health. Which really does make me question this, because if one of your employees is eating off the floor, then I really do wonder how food is being managed in the kitchen when no one is actually looking.
Breaking news, authorities now say an area searched twice previously is where Robert Card was located. Authorities confirmed that Robert Card was found at the Maine Cycling Corporation in Lisbon, Maine. His body was found in an unlocked trailer with 2 firearms by his side. Additionally, the recycling plant was previously cleared twice by authorities. Authorities then returned a third time after business owners alerted them to an overflow lot with additional trailers. Authorities said, quote, nobody had any idea that across the street there was an overflow parking lot. They stated the trailer that he was found in was unlocked from the outside. Authorities also stated that the picture they saw of him looked like he was wearing the same sweatshirt that he had on when the crime took place. In total, they found 3 weapons, 1 located in his Subaru by the boat dock and 2 next to his deceased body. Furthermore, he also left behind a, quote, paper-style note. This was addressed to loved ones that included his cell phone, passcode, and bank account numbers. Additionally, they said that the note indicated that he would not be around any longer. The note was located inside of his home shortly after he was identified as the suspect. At this time, authorities will not give an exact time of death until an autopsy is conducted. All of this information was provided by the Public Safety Commissioner. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
Have you heard of the Russian scientist who injected himself with a 3.5 million year old bacteria?
For fun? For science. Oh, okay.
So this Russian scientist named Dr. Rockstock, digging in the permafrost in Siberia, they discovered this bacteria that was so far down, it was still living. But they tested this bacteria on mice, plants, and the mice and plants lived way longer, and the crops didn't die as fast when it was cold outside. They're calling it the elixir of life. They're saying that this thing could could contribute to people, animals, and plants all living longer than they should. There's a town pretty close to where they found this bacteria. The people have lived way longer than all the other people in the region. So he was basically like, I want to try it on myself. And he said he hadn't had a cold or flu in 2 years since injecting himself. It got me thinking, in the Bible times, how they lived 900.
Nuts.
You wonder if like that is a
Could you imagine?
bacteria from the first days of creation.
You taking that bacteria?
I would take it.
Secretary of State. She is running around the world forcing
It was like a pay for
political
play.
leaders to donate money to the Clinton Foundation so that they could get time with the U.S. Secretary of State.
Yeah, so that was a complaint in real time about her. Obama, as everybody knows, he did tell the Secretary of Defense, use all means to do this. And then he got on a plane to Vegas to go see Beyonce and Jay-Z. Why did he not cancel that trip and stay and make sure his orders were followed up on? That's one thing that wasn't done that surprises me that nobody ever complains about.
This is while the attack's happening. We have an embassy and a CIA annex under attack, and the President of the United States is flying to Vegas to meet with Beyonce.
Yep.
You hear that, everybody?
Breaking news, they have now released the 911 dispatch from Matthew Perry. Take a listen.
Engine 23, Rescue 23, EMS 9. Engine 23, Rescue 23, EMS 9, all on radio. Respond to the drowning. Process search drive.
Matthew Perry returned to his home this morning after a 2-hour round of pickleball. Shortly after returning home, he then sent his assistant on errands. When his assistant returned about 2 hours later, that is when he discovered Matthew unresponsive. Immediately, he called 911. Shortly after 7 p.m., multiple helicopters were above Matthew Perry's Los Angeles home. Shortly after, his mother and her husband, Keith Morrison, arrived on the scene. Sources say that his assistant located him in the jacuzzi at his home. Additionally, at this time, no foul play is suspected. Authorities say it appeared that he passed from an apparent drowning. At this time, they say an investigation into his passing is underway. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
Out of all the folklores in the world that's ever created, there's gotta be maybe
one or two
that is real. Which ones you think it would be?
Not vampires.
I say dragons.
Dragon?
You know why I say dragons? Because there's so many countries and so many civilizations that have pictures of dragons.
First of all, do you think they were that big?
See,
and they was flying around, bro? Do your homework on what? That's not happening, bro.
Like I said before, there's always a possibility that something survived.
Yeah.
We never know. And they could have just them all off and just erased it from history.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It would be either dragons or like
what
mermaids?
Mermaids.
I wouldn't look past it.
Bro, mermaids, first of all, it's in the ocean. It's in the water.
The ocean's huge.
You'll never find them.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like there could be mermaids just for the fact, like, you know how we evolved from Neanderthals to adapt to our environment and we became us? There could be people back in the day that evolved to the water.
Yes.
And they started living in the water.
Have you ever seen the video of it's a baseball game? They're like warming up and then a ball is about to hit the news person. And he turns around and he goes like this, the baseball player.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember what the news anchor looked like?
Was a woman.
What?
Blonde?
Blonde, right?
Yeah.
Evan, there's been a lot of changes this offseason for your team. How do you feel your chances are in the AL East?
I mean, I love our chances. You know, it's been... man. Dad, keep it on the field.
That's not fake? That's how it is? Nah, bro. I called cap on that shit. There's no way. I remember her being blonde.
Me too, bro. I remember her being blind. I also remember her saying, wait, did you get that?
Yeah, I remember that too. These Mandela effects be tripping me out.
Breaking news, Matthew Perry has sadly passed away. The star of Friends passed away due to an apparent drowning. Law enforcement sources say he was found at his Los Angeles home on Saturday evening. First responders received a call from the home stating someone was in cardiac arrest. At this time, they have not provided any further details. Matthew Perry was 54 years old. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
This is every woman killed by Jack the Ripper, Mary Jane Kelly. All of the Ripper's attacks so far have been very quick and taken place outside on homeless women, but the final murder took place indoors, inside the woman's home. And this attack didn't last only a minute or so. This time, he took over 2 hours. Mary Jane Kelly is the woman we know the least about, and that's how she wanted it. She was the youngest victim at only 25 years old, and unlike the other women, Mary was a professional sex worker. She was known to be exceptionally well educated, likely from a well-to-do family in Ireland, but somehow found herself as a high-class escort to the London elite. However, her life took an unexpected turn, and she fell from elite escort to Whitechapel sex worker fighting for survival. She was renting a ground floor flat on Dorset Street, a slum that once stood exactly here, marked by the gold lines that run through this office building. The night that she was murdered, her neighbor saw her return home with a man. Mary told her that she was going to have a song. The neighbor heard Mary serenade her customer, likely the Ripper,
to the song A Violet from Mother's Grave. Then at some point in the night, she folded up her clothes, took off her boots, and they went to bed. Indoors, the Ripper was able to realize his full objectives without fear of being disturbed. There was a crime scene photographer which produced the only Ripper crime scene photos. They're very easy to find, but I warn you that it's haunting. And I know that if he'd had the time, this is what he would have done to all of his victims. And that was it. He just disappeared. His identity has captivated us for the last 135 years, but what is certain is that we will never know for sure who he was. But we do know Polly Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. And they should have been the focus of this story all along.
From the known forensics of the crime scene, from the placement and direction that the blows from the axe were taken, it was clear that she was looking directly at her attacker when it happened. After probably the first hack and slash took place, Abby's body hit the floor, and every strike thereafter was sunk into the back of her skull. 17 total blows. That's a lot more than a double tap, and definitely excessive. Like someone was either enjoying it or going through an extreme emotional catharsis and release from pent-up anger and rage.
Breaking news, they released new court documents describing what David did to Jace. David has been accused of inflicting physical injury on Jace, causing, quote, marks on the right arm and left and right side of the neck. The documents also state that these injuries were not sustained by accident. However, the documents, because Jace is a minor, do not go into full detail. The timing of the alleged incident is the same day, September 28th, that he ran away. It is now believed that Jace and David had some sort of exchange before Jace left the property that night. He was able to leave by slipping out of his bedroom window. In addition, they say there is Ring doorbell footage of the actual crime that both authorities and CPS have in their possession. It is believed that this is what led to the charge. His September 28th disappearance marked his third runaway in a month. Janelle does not have custody and he is currently residing with Barbara. To stay up to date on this case, click the playlist below. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
The Logan Paul, Dylan Dennis fight. Do you guys see the ending?
When he took them out?
No, and then what happened? Like the security
guard, and then he started swinging on the security guard.
It's all fake, fam. What? Hear me out. Look, listen. I'm gonna show you a video.
Okay, let me see.
So, look how much security was there. Wasn't it almost like comedically much?
It was a lot.
There was more security than within the UFC when Conor and Khabib started fighting.
I will lie to you, the way they bum rushed the ring, it was filled with security.
Yo, it was filled with security? I was paying attention. I'm like, yo, this is fake. Like, I already know this is some WWE shit.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at every individual security. They're not even like doing anything. They're using energy like this for no reason. They're just making a scuffle just so they can get that pick off. Now check this out. The round was supposed to end already.
The last one?
Yeah, last round before it ended. The timer was already ended.
Already.
And then there was still like 10 more seconds until Dylan Dennis did the chokehold and then dropped. And then that's when everybody flooded in. The timer was already done, but Dylan Dennis just didn't do it on time.
Oh, so like he missed the signal.
Yo.